The biggest elephant in the room, or you could say horse, because that's what this team relates to. The Dallas Cowboys. Not only are you in salary cap hell, but you have not one, but two major players that you need to sign here. And then after that, next year, you need to decide if you want to re-sign Dak Prescott. Well, why can't you just trade Dak Prescott and get someone really good in the draft and pass him off on a stupid team like the Carolina Panthers or another bottom dwelling team in the league? You're like, well, the guy who's average, the guy who's mediocre, the guy who couldn't outplay Jordan Love with, according to Colin Cowherd's sources, the guy can't play football and his family hates him. And he lost to that guy in the first round. And you have to not only pay Micah Parsons, you have to not only pay CeeDee Lamb. You are negative in the cap right now by roughly $20 million. Your offensive line is getting older by the year, and it was the best offensive line in the league when Tony Romo played, when DeMarco Murray was on that team, when you led Darren McFadden to 1,000-yard rushing season. That's how old this offensive line is. And not only that, your star player, Micah Parsons, only has 1 sack in 4 playoff games. And then not only has he played 3 years in the league, but he thinks he's seen everything at this point. And then, oh yeah, you can't beat winning teams, and you couldn't even beat Miami last season, and you only won your division because the Philadelphia Eagles fell off a cliff at the end of the year. But you have the Commanders. I think the Philadelphia Eagles bounce back, or at least move on from Sirianni. The only shining ray is that Daniel Jones may potentially still be in your division. That's the only sign of encouragement for the Cowboys. But for a team that was as vaunted as they were, everyone's favorite to get to the Super Bowl, like, oh, if it's not the 49ers, it'll be the Cowboys. I'm like, all of you are idiots, because the Cowboys should have never been number 2. It should have always been the Lions. It should have always been at least someone other than the Cowboys, because they haven't done it since VHS tapes were the main source of media consumption, as we say on the show. But I think to put it all on top of that, we bring back Mike McCarthy, who everyone was like, this guy should be gone. And you bring in Mike Zimmer to replace Dan Quinn. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah, they're screwed, especially those two-headed monsters with Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb, because both of them are going to demand top dollar, and both of them deserve top dollar. CeeDee Lamb, he's going to be making Tyreek Hill money, so that's $30 million right there. And Micah Parsons, he's a top edge rusher in this league. He's going to demand $30 million. And then you have the Dak Prescott situation. Maybe it's time that Trey Lance finally gets some playing time. And maybe he takes on the helm after 5 years of development. We saw what it did with Jordan Love in his development after sitting on the sidelines for half a decade. Maybe it's Trey Lance that will finally get the helm, because people in the 2021 draft, they swore by Trey Lance with that 14 games that he played that one year. So maybe that's what they do.
Yeah.
If not, Dak Prescott, who got $50 million last time, maybe this year he demands $60 million. So you're looking at just about $120 million annually in contracts you're going to have to align. So what happens to Trayvon Diggs? What happens to DeMarcus Lawrence? What happens to all these other guys with all these?
Don't forget about Deron Bland. Oh my God! Don't forget Deron Bland.
I can never forget about Defensive Player of the Year Deron Bland, of course. So the Cowboys, whether it's this year or next year, will implode, and the only person that will fix them is Bill Belichick
or the Brickyard.